And one of the questions that one of the youth asked was like, how do I learn who my ancestors are?
Mm.
If my mom or my dad don't even know, or if my grandparents don't even want to talk about it, or if I don't even know them.
Yeah.
And so that's really painful, to experience this, especially by yourself. And I speak from experience, and trying to just kind of like navigate how to like reconnect to like, it's like, how do you reconnect to these parts of yourself that you don't even know what they are?
Yeah.
There's like no like map to it, it's like this feeling of like, damn, like something is missing, or I want to reconnect to something needs to be healed, but I don't know what it is. Like, am I crazy? Like,
What's up, kapwatids? We're back.
It's your favorite ates, and welcome to season 4.
For those just tuning in, we are two Filipinx soul sisters on a decolonizing journey, currently based on Turtle Island, aka North America.
We met each other again this lifetime in a healing circle, and that's how the Babaylan Bruja Book Club podcast was born.
This season, we did something a little different by engaging in a series of study break conversations with honored artists, authors, and thought leaders in the Filipinx diaspora.
We enjoyed connecting with Kapwa with different perspectives and viewpoints, and we're so excited to extend these conversations to you. This next conversation featured a very special individual doing many forms of work in the Filipinx diaspora. She speaks of her experience decolonizing in a time where resources were limited.
Verma is an educator, healer of Visayan descent, community organizer, and founder of Ginhawa Marketplace. And I would consider a cultural weaver based in the Bay. Hey! That being said, let's tune into this conversation. So, welcome back to another time and space. Babaylan Bruja is a sacred space to have some conversation. With us today is a very special person, but we'll get into introducing them in a little bit later. But as always, before we begin, we just want to take a moment to ground. It is so important to take a pause to drop into our bodies. And just become fully present to your space. So if it is safe for you, if you're not driving while you're listening to this podcast, we invite you to close your eyes, straighten your spine, and direct your focus to your breath. Maybe take a few deep inhales in, extending your belly out, and exhales, bringing your belly in. Again, inhale, extending your belly out. And exhale, bringing your belly in. And one more time. Inhale. And exhale. Even if you can't close your eyes, continue to breathe slowly. Connect back into your body. Connect to your body with gratitude for guiding you and holding your spirit going throughout your day. And just come into the here and now. And as we begin our conversation, as always, we'd like to thank God, Bathala Creator, for another gathering. In gratitude, we acknowledge our benevolent ancestors and invite all these forces to guide and protect our conversation today. We also thank the ancestors of the lands that we occupy, knowing we cannot do our own remembrance work without remembering them. For myself, that is the mound builders that are the Hopewell and Adena people in Ohio. And for Stephanie, that is the Bay, Miwok, Yokut people in the Inland Bay area of California. With gratitude, we also acknowledge your presence, kapwatid, your energy and your light, no matter wherever and whenever you're tuning in. Yay. Thank you, sis. I feel here now. Me too. So, yeah, with gratitude, we want to introduce our lovely guest, Miss Verma.
and Verma Zapanta. I hope I said that right. But yeah, she will dive in and just, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Well, thank you. Thank you, sisters, for having me on the podcast. I have to remember it's a podcast, so people can't see my facial expressions and my hand movements. Um, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Verma Zapanta, she, her pronouns. I'm dialing in from Yalamu Ramaytush territory, forcibly known as San Francisco, California. A little bit about myself. I am a teacher, photographer, and a student of hilot. I am a circle keeper, and I just love being with my community. I guess some more like professional titles. I'm one of the program coordinators at the Filipino Mental Health Initiative of San Francisco. I'm also the assistant director at Pinoy Panay Educational Partnerships. And I am the founder of Hilot with Verma and Ginhawa Marketplace, and also the co-founder of the Buong Loob Filipinx Student Wellness Internship and the Filipinx Student Wellbeing Conference Youth Contingency Internships. So really grateful to be sharing space with y'all.
Yes. Wow. Those are some beautiful things you are doing in the community, and we're so grateful. Side note, this will be on YouTube as well. So feel free to use your hands and people can see that. Yeah.
We will see
Yeah.
your beauty later. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Go ahead, sis. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, can you tell the people more about maybe hilot and what that
Sure.
is, if some people don't know, and how you kind of use it to support people?
Yeah, so the best way to describe it is that hilot is a traditional form of like it's like folk medicine from the Philippines. People typically associate it with like body work, with old people, with massages that are very painful, but it hurts so good. But the connection that a lot of people make to hilot is like to their elders, to their grandparents, to their great aunts. And body work is just one element of hilot. It also involves what we call like energy work. There's prayers, there's ritual, there's really strict traditions, and typically it's passed down through storytelling and orally. Way back when, there was usually a hilot in the family, or within your barangay, and so we really had access to taking care of ourselves. And so I'm just a student of it, like hilot came into my life almost like 5 years ago during a really low time, and I guess my healing journey, or folks would maybe call my a part of my decolonization journey. And what I found was that when I just kind of started posting what I was learning from elders during my travels, like people became really interested in learning more about it. And it brought up a lot of memories for them. And so they would recall like being massaged and being prayed over, by like a grandparent, or they would remember like a nursery rhyme, as they were being massaged as a child. And so I really feel that hilot is like one of those like, pathways to ancestral remembering. And I'm also like in mental health, work. So I really feel like it's a way for us to even acknowledge, right, different ways of like healing. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I know about hilot, and how it plays a role in my life. So it's just about like teaching folks what's been taught to me.
That's so cool. And you're saying that, you started going on these trips and you bring it back. So I'd love to hear more about where you've been and, who you've sat with and how was those experiences? Because I've been following kind of your work for some time now. And I noticed some clips like you were in the Philippines. You sat with Mamerto as well, Lagitan. And so I had the blessing to see him last year. Was it last year? Anyways, but yeah, so
Yeah.
if you could like share how those experiences were for you.
Yeah, so just a little bit of context. I was a high school teacher for a really long time, like maybe like 10 or 12 years, doing work in like the community and working for the district. And yeah, I just like burnt out from teaching and took a bit of a break, and tried to kind of lick my wounds figure out like what next. It's like this goal that I've been working towards, right, in my career as like as an educator. And it I just got, like I just couldn't survive. um
Yeah.
I couldn't survive because I just couldn't feel, I didn't feel like I was able to be the teacher that I wanted to be, in these systems. And so it was like a hard reset. It was really challenging for me to be in community with folks who could really understand, that I was feeling like broken and I needed to like heal myself. And
Mm.
I don't know how, but I just found my way, into like these spaces. One of the first gatherings I ever attended was through the Center for Babaylan Studies, the Babaylan conference out in Vancouver in Coast Salish territory. Um, and that's where I met different like elders and folks who have been studying decolonization work and doing work with folks who are on like those kinds of similar paths. And through that I was able to meet elders like Grace Nono, who held the Pamati gathering um out in where were we were supposed to go south, but we were kind of like in a little bit, like a couple hours away from Manila. And that was the first time I ever um, formally saw like a hilot, like doing work on
Mm.
someone, and also met like abularios. And because those things were like very like not part of who I
Right.
was.
Wow.
Like a lot of what you see like on like Hilot with Verma and like you back, that's like all like hella new language. I was never like, oh yeah, like I'm a healer or I'm like, or I'm decolonizing. Like it was really that wasn't part of like who I was, yet. And so through sitting, with other people who were on similar journeys as me, and then meeting elders who were willing to just like story tell,
Mm.
um that's what really gave me the courage to be able to hold spaces like that here in Ohlone territory. The last time I was able to go back to the Philippines was like a couple days before lockdown,
Wow.
um in 2020. And I was out in Asia for like maybe like it's like 7 weeks, I think, something
Oh,
like that, in the
wow.
Philippines for 5. And it was just like just sitting with elders, and whatever they wanted to show us or teach us, then cool. If not, okay.
Yeah.
Because there's also lessons in that too, of just
Wow.
like being present.
Mhm.
um yeah, it was a lot of like learning and unlearning,
Mm.
of how to like listen. I don't know if that really answered uh your question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a great gem to drop. Just like being present is, you know, part of just learning and unlearning. And I think living in the society we are now, it's very easy to not be present. So the practice of presence is interesting. And yeah, I think that's so dope that have had the journey to start up Babaylan, the conference that we read about through. We read Babaylan. That was our first book, and a lot of the contributors we're from there. So yeah. Sis, you look like you're gonna say something.
Oh no, I'm just really interested in your story. And as you I guess what I want to ask is, um when was the first time you experienced like hilot? Did you, when you went to the Philippines, were you able to experience that? What kind of remembrances did it bring up in your body? Did it like happen all of a sudden, or was it like a slow, like just realization process? Because I can really right now really relate to the fact of like kind of feeling like, oh shit, like the systems around us are broken. And I feel a little bit like, how do I go about uh like how does one go about healing, etc. So I don't know, I'm just really interested in that part of your story if you're willing to share.
Yeah, it's so I was like trying to find a job and all the jobs being like offered to me or that made the most sense was going back into the classroom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And so I had to find or create like those spaces of like where I felt like I could breathe, and so um I just did like a lot of like Google searching of like communities and people who could just like support me, because at the time like because I feel like Instagram now it's like, man, there's like so many resources. You can find like your Filipinx like folk medicine practitioners, energy healers, Reiki
Yeah.
practitioners, other manghihilots who you can stay with in the Philippines. And like that wasn't so accessible, for me, for us at the time. And so I remember like after I saw a pamphlet for Pamati at the Center for Babaylan Studies conference. It was on the table and like nobody was there. I was like, oh, okay, let me just take this postcard. I'll send the email. Let's see where it goes. And then I ended up getting an email, but still was kind of faced with this imposter syndrome of like, do I deserve to like be here? Because I didn't know anyone there. A lot of, how communities are. It's like they already kind of know each other. They're in this work. And so I was just like, it was this constant, like, I was just really in my head all the time throughout this entire journey. Like, do I deserve to be here? We're like so good at that. It doesn't matter if it's like you're on your healing path or you are an academic or whatever. It's always like, do I deserve to like be here? And so I almost didn't like, because you had to apply, to go to the gathering, and I almost didn't apply. But I did, with the help of like I was seeing like a spiritual advisor who actually wasn't Filipino. Shout out to Sid Yang of Blue Jaguar is Love. They really like was instrumental to saving my life, and encouraged me to connect with like, so, you should really connect to like your ancestors and like your the medicine of your lineage. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like I'm like, I mean, like connect with ghosts. Like I don't, and so they really like started to like kind of give me this language and to encourage me to connect, with our community. And so I would find people who have, who I believe are my teachers, like Angela Angel of Other Ways of Seeing, and like Jonalyn Umipig, the person who created Kapwatid. And so, through them and like in travels, like, and like going to them for like my own healing sessions, that made it be like, oh, that's okay. And then so I was sitting at the table with my mom, just kind of trying to plan out my trip in the Philippines, right? While I was going out to Pamati, and I'm like typing. I was like, Mom, what's hilot? And she was like, it's like, oh, that's just like massage. I'm like, okay, whatever. Cause I was just really interested because there was gonna be a manghilot at Pamati. And then she goes, oh, your auntie is a manghihilot. I was like, for real? I was like, do you think that she'll like teach me? And like my aunt like teaching me, it was like in the break room at Walgreens. Like I would come during my mom, because they're best friends. I would come and they're like in their break room, And my aunt tells my mom, "I'll lock the door," and she tells my mom, "Okay, hubad." So she takes off her clothes. she's like, she's like massaging her. She's like, "There, that's how you do it." I'm like, "Oh, but why?"
Yeah.
That's what you don't do. You don't say, "But why? Why is it like that?" That was like a blockage I learned. And so it was just like that were kind of like the early lessons, right? Of like what I how I was taught. And then it became like, okay, like this is what you're allowed to do. And then I would seek out like the teachers in the Philippines. So that's how I found the Hilot Academy of Babaylan. So our other teacher, Rolando Camon, who like because of the pandemic, has been able to like share, their teachings, in Hilot, and is doing a lot of really great work in the Philippines to try to institutionalize it as a form of holistic medicine in the Philippines, but also trying to keep it, keep its sacred essence, right? Of not trying to commercialize it. And so like it wasn't until I got to the Philippines where like I received hilot and I would share with my mom what was happening. And she was like, "You used to get hilot all the time." And then I would remember all those times that I were sick. I would go to this old lady's house, and like be crying because she's like trying to straighten out my body. Turns out it was my aunt's mother. Who healed us when we were younger. And so that's what I find with like just kind of holding these spaces is that people are like, "Oh, yeah. It's like my uncle used to pop my bones back into my ankle, after it was dislocated playing basketball, or, they would make me do this thing with a candle and in the, candle wax in the water and pray." And so I'm just like holding the space and just helping people facilitate, reconnecting to those memories.
Yeah.
But that's a long-winded way of saying.
Yeah, no, that's I
Yeah.
love what you just said. That's such a beautiful thing you said at the end. You're just holding space for people to reconnect and remember, because that's really how I met you. I met Verma. I went to one of my sisters too. She from a different organization. She brought me to sound bath, and it was with another Filipinx healer. And you were just, it's so interesting to me that you're talking about like, the imposter syndrome kind of concept, but you were just so welcoming and allowing people to kind of like, yeah, you deserve to be here. Like, this is the space for you to connect. And so I just want to like share that with you, that you really, I think your presence is healed as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Even though that I think that's what we have to do, right? Even if we don't believe it so much for ourselves, we have to like keep saying it and remind ourselves like, well, that's what we are sharing with our brothers and sisters, right? It's like you're deserving. And then so that becomes like just kind of like in self-reflective mode, of like, am I listening? Am I practicing those same things? That's why it's a healing practice, or a wellness practice, right? Some days practice is easy, some days practice is
It's not. Yes.
sometimes you don't even show up to practice.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So, um, I love that story, how you said that you learned hilo in the back of like at the break room at Walgreens. I feel like that's such like a Filipina like mom tita thing. Like, we're gonna introduce you to this ancestral thing, but we're just gonna be like, just somewhere random, right?
Yes.
So when
Yeah, my ear is going like, I don't know what it is, what's going on. The ancestors are tuning in or whatever, but I just feel like that's like the beauty of this time we're in, how we're kind of like all playing a role in like remembrance and holding that space for each other. And it's like a ripple effect. And I think being brown in America, it's a lot of like, where does our culture come in? Like, we acculturate to certain trends and things like that. But when coming back into our own practice, I think it's such a beautiful thing, because it's like setting up the foundation for future generations to say like, I don't want to say trendy because that sounds commercialized, but it's also like a way to kind of bring them back into like, yeah, like this is something to be proud of. This is your lineage, this is your medicine, this is what our ancestors did. So
Yeah.
I don't know, that's what's coming through, and my ears like clearing up now.
Yay. I love that. So if someone would ask you why, you know, how you said you're in the break room and that your aunt was like showing you how to do hilot, but you were like, well, why though? Like how, if someone asked you, so why hilot, what would you say? Like, what would your answer kind of
Yeah,
be?
I'd be
Why
like,
hilot?
why not? I'm like, well, why not? You don't want the tools to heal yourself? Because
Yeah.
really, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's like we don't have to be like so dependent, right, on going to an institution like a hospital,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and which really profits off of us getting sick.
Mhm.
You know, like I feel like Hilo is about, and not to say I'm just like, oh yeah, Hilo, and I don't like, you know, I wouldn't go to like use Western medicine, right? It's like finding harmony in
Yes.
both. But
Yeah.
then, you know, with Hilo, it's like it's preventative medicine. You know, it also like gives us like this agency, right? To take care of ourselves, to take care of our children, to take care of our elders. Like, you know, my mom, when I started going into like Hilot, and she would be like, you went to UCLA to massage people? And then she buys me a massage table for my birthday. And then she asks, oh, can you heal me?
Oh.
You know, so it's like, I'm like, okay, you know, this is kind of the way of like also teaching like our elders too, who have had to be disconnected, you know,
Yeah.
from our medicine, from our teachings
Yes.
because of survival, right? Probably 1, 2, 3 generations, you know,
Yeah.
and so by us reconnecting to it, it's like that shit is generational healing.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
we are fucking like healing,
Yes.
you know, so many generations of trauma. And like, yeah, you know, like I the last time I did this talk on Hilo was at the conference of young Filipinos in medicine.
Mhm.
And it was like the first time I was like sharing like Hilo with like a community of like physicians. You know, there's
Like
like folks who are
doctors,
practicing
like
Western medicine.
yeah,
I
Western.
was like, for real? You know, it's like, okay. And what was dope was that it like activated you know, memories for them, and it made them really think about, like I said, I'm not here to convince you that the medicine works or doesn't work, right? I know what I know, but for you, you know, how is this going to make you a stronger practitioner? You know,
Mm.
how is this going to help you help our community, you know,
Yeah.
in a good way, you know, especially our elders, you know, who it's like,
Mhm.
you know, just the use of Vicks, right? You know how
Ah,
those memes of like the Vicks will heal the world, and like
yes,
you broke your arm, you know, rub some Vicks on
that's
it.
the bigs. As if
But
that's gonna put it back together. I know.
yeah, but then it's like just this actual like that touch, and
Yeah.
like this into, you know, we have this it's within us, right? To just use touch and
Mm.
like care and like to kind of like massage, whether it's like self-soothe or for someone who's crying, right?
Mm.
It's already like within us to kind of use like touch and like those kinds of emotions to
Mhm.
care for someone, to heal someone.
Yeah.
I think that that's just kind of like the first way of like acknowledging, like at some shape or form, Hilot is already within us,
Mm.
you know, because
Wow.
most folks are like, oh, I don't know what that is. And then it becomes like they go through all the things.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, I'm ashamed, or like I feel guilty, or like whatever, I'm disconnected. But then it's like you just show that image of Vicks, or
Right,
like
right.
the weird glass container, you
I
know, that have
know.
like it's like
Oh my
the
God, that's hella
gelatinous
funny.
coconut oil and it's all dusty,
That's hella funny.
or like the
Yeah, but
pouch. the pouch, like, what's inside that pouch that something he's holding? Like, what's in
Yeah,
the pouch that that Tita always be carrying in her
I
Louis,
know. Right? My grandma, she always had it, and that was her go-to automatically. Sniffle, whatever. Oh, we want some Vicks. Yeah, like
Yeah.
put some Vicks on
So
it.
that's
Like
again like the why. Why then? You know?
that's so true, though. I love how you're kind of like connecting us back to realizing, like you saying, like we go through all the motions of I need to do this, do that, but it's like it's always been in your DNA. It's always been
Yeah.
part of the practice, just as not even just as a Filipino, like a human being. So that being said, with this kind of decolonizing podcast, Amy and I co-host, and then you being here, I guess, what is your connection to the word, and like what does it look like or mean to you?
Yeah, it's like a remembering. Really, it is like a remembering. Um, it's like messy,
Yeah.
painful.
Yeah.
Um, just this like last week, with the young people, we started talking about like, pre-colonial Philippines and just all these identities that um existed and still exist. Has resiliently continued to exist, right?
Yes.
And one of the questions that one of the youth asked was like, how do I learn who my ancestors are
Mm,
if like if my mom or my dad don't even know,
Mm.
or if my grandparents don't even want to talk about it, or if I don't even know them,
Yeah.
and so um that's really painful,
Yeah.
to experience this, especially by yourself. um and I speak from experience, and trying to just kind of like navigate how to like reconnect to like, it's like, how do you reconnect to these parts of yourself that you don't even know what they are?
Yeah.
There's like no like map to it. It's like this feeling of like, damn, like something is missing, or I want to reconnect to something needs to be healed, but I don't know what it is. Like, am I crazy? Like what do I do? Like, who can help me? How does someone help me? And so I've just kind of learned to like find the other folks, who can be in my community, who like actually are like, oh, I feel alone too. I
Yeah.
find the other people who's feeling alone and figuring it out. It's like, oh, dang, we got a whole clan now,
yeah.
of folks who want to just figure it out together. And like, that's what a lot of the circles are looking like. That's what the hilot circles look like. Like, people tend to think like, oh, hey, can you like do like a hilot exhibition or do a hilot training? But that's not what like the spaces end up being like. The spaces are just like, I'm here. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but I'm here, and this is who's like with me.
Yeah.
It's like I've been like talking to my great grandfather, who I've never even met before, and I don't know why. And I've never shared that because I don't want people to judge me, or like I want to get into like energy work, but I'm scared to leave my corporate job. And sometimes you just need to be with those people who like can be your mirror. I know Jana has always taught me that, to surround yourself with folks who can reflect yourself back to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of what the journey, like looks like. It's like it can feel like so isolating. It can feel like you're so in your head and you just kind of spiral like more and more. But it's like, just don't stay there for too long. You
Yeah.
know, you just
Yep.
gotta like find your people,
Yeah.
find
Yeah. I think you just being in your head and spiraling. I feel like you just described my whole my whole week. But yeah, that's why I just really appreciate you know, the technologies of today with like even with Zoom, like a lot of the spaces, decolonizing healing spaces that I've sat in have started online. And, this is the inspiration for Steph and I doing doing this podcast is because, there's a lot of people who don't know how to start or don't know how to remember, or who are also looking for
Sure.
spaces where people um who are feeling like alone in their journey,
Yeah.
so I just really appreciate you holding space for people as well. So yeah. um I don't know where I was going with that. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, there's like such a deep like well of knowledge that you hold, Verma, and we appreciate it because I see you as someone who's definitely been on this path for a while, and I have a couple teachers who say the same things, like these resources weren't as really readily available, so y'all's were kind of in that like what did it, I don't know why I'm thinking about the Stitch movie, Lilo and Stitch, like the lonely duck syndrome kind of
Oh,
thing.
I know.
Yeah, and he's like, "Here's my family," right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That scene
yeah,
always makes me cry.
I know, right?
He goes, I'm lost. I was like, oh, well, yeah.
I know, like Stitch. Yeah, and so it's such a beautiful thing. I don't know, I just can't, like, all it is just, I could just say it's beautiful to see how community is really where we are healing, and it's refreshing to see folks just where they are along their path and how we continue to like ripply affect. That's what I'm gonna word, make it a word, but like ripple effect.
Yes.
Yeah, and just like reaching folks to keep decolonizing. I think Tita Lenny made a really good title of Back from the Crocodile's Belly, because I really feel like that's the movement, that's the time we're in.
Yeah.
A lot of folks are just kind of unabashedly stepping into their medicine and bringing back the things that are woo woo, or like you said in the beginning, like, what does that mean? Like, I connect with ghosts, like, and I think that's really embedded in our lineage. Like, we were very much connected to the spiritual realm, and we've been kind of sold. I don't want to diss what people are doing, but like that's part of where we came from. So it's like an important conversation, and to see people kind of representing that and doing that, again, just makes it like less woo woo, or like, oh, I can be in this space, and it's actually where I came from in some ways.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So one of the questions we always ask people that we've been interviewing, we always talk about like rituals. And so we ask people, what rituals do you have that you maybe do daily that you would love to share that help support you in your work or in your healing journey, or just any rituals that are currently like really life-giving and just like really supporting you?
Mhm. Man, it was so much easier to do a lot of the ritual work when it was in lockdown.
Yeah.
And it was really easy. It was much
Yeah.
easier to do it when, you don't have to like be at multiple places or committed to multiple things. But
Yes.
what I am constantly like trying to reconnect to is my meditation practice that that saved my life. And like starting like before hilot, before studying like plant medicine, before like all that stuff, like it was reconnecting and understanding how healing and powerful it is to connect to the breath, which is like still like a struggle. And so even if I can do it like, sitting in my car, for like a minute, or doing it before going to sleep, or even like movement as well, like because sometimes being stationary, like I learned like stationary meditation, like it felt like my skeleton was trying to like jump out of my body.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just getting out of here, because that's a real thing. And like I was actually studying like secular mindfulness like at the East Bay Meditation Center in Oakland for a little bit, and like was going to like POC, a people of color like meditation circle to like help me just be in community to learn how to do that kind of like grounding, and so I'd be like falling asleep. It's like, okay, come on, Verma, you gotta have a little bit of like discipline, and so I've learned to kind of like, it doesn't have to look a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. I think one of your other questions too was like about like your healing journey, and like I want to share like, don't get stuck in trying to envision it being like it's supposed to look like this. So like my breath work doesn't look like that person's breath work that I just saw on Instagram. So maybe I'm not doing it right, or like how it's like this constant, comparing. And so I've learned to just like, be real about like what feels authentic, to me in like ritualizing like my breath, so if that means, doing some like qigong, from what I could remember, am I doing it right? Well, I'm with my breath right now. Or if I'm doing it, with a friend, if they're kind of like having a crisis and we breathe together, like I feel like, we tend to think that rituals have to be like, oh, I do it before the sun comes up, or I do it like at midnight. It's like, no, like your body, is like an altar itself. You can be in ritual and connect anytime. Like one of my elders would say that like Filipinos, we are very spiritual people. I think she even said this like 85%. I was like, wow, that's a very accurate, like, number. Is that because one of the questions that we had that one of the sisters posed to her was like, yeah, we don't have any like temples, like sacred temples, like a lot of like our neighbors right throughout Asia. And our elder was like, it's like we don't need that. Like, you just need your body. You just sit and you connect to source.
Yeah, that's
no excuses, right? All right, I'm gonna connect right here in the pho restaurant.
I'm a temple, right?
You know how they say my body is a temple. You know how they, and it's become very like commodified. Like no, that's like on some real shit. Like your body is a temple. That's why we have to like take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna connect right here in the Walgreens break room.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we live. You don't need all the fancy. That's what the elder said, right? You don't need that fancy. You could just do it anywhere.
It's right here. And like when I first started doing hilot on people, I would have like massage table. I had like my crystals. I had like the whole thing. But then in the Philippines, it's like all you need is the floor.
Right. All you need is banig.
You need the banig. If you're lucky, you get a pillow. Yeah. And then even the Vicks is like the coconut oil, they just get it, right? And then they just use the, whatever is accessible, in like the forest, like that's like really what it is, right? So not even getting all caught up in like the bells and whistles of like how to set like, you know what I'm saying? And so, and that's okay too, because those are like tools. Like if it's like, I still carry my crystals with me, I got them everywhere. In my car, under my pillow. I give them in my pocket. But then what is then if you don't have all those things?
Yeah.
You still got this.
Yeah.
You still got this, your heart,
At the end of the day, you have your breath.
But that's what makes it hard, right? Then it's like, oh, I gotta sit with this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's easy. I didn't say that. I just said you still got this.
Yeah. You always have that.
Yeah.
Remembering you always have. You talk a lot about, us kind of, so a couple things like resources, how Filipinos have always been resourceful and clever because we had to adapt, right? We never knew who was trying us. But, and so part of, I think, the rage or the pain that comes, what I have experienced is like, we kind of like hoard, we kind of keep like, this is mine, because we've been so giving and then people have taken literally. Right. And so, as we kind of navigate in this time where people are, in this wellness industry complex, how it is very much a place to commodify. And that's just, I think, the nature of humans. That's my opinion. We since the time of trade, we were always trying to commodify or, exchange things. You as a hilot practitioner, I guess, like, what are your thoughts on people who kind of enter that space and they try to commodify, or folks who have sat with maybe one or two elders and they're like, I'm a healer, like, because this keeping the sacred is pretty, I think it's definitely part of our lineage, but I just curious on like your perspective on that, and how we as listeners coming in now, especially young folk, how they can honor that as they step, if they choose to step into that space.
Yeah, that's such an important question. People ask me that all the time.
Oh,
how do I know I'm doing the right thing? I was like,
yeah.
discernment, boo.
Mm.
When you're walking your path, are you doing it with integrity? What does integrity mean to you? And I've like also learned like on this path too, that the people like for real, the healers are the ones who are like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, because it's a big responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Like, could you imagine like you're having to be the one to make sure that people recover from like illnesses, or like you also like absorb a lot of that, it's a big responsibility to be looked at as like the healer in your community, and so to do things like in a good way, it's like, well, it's like, what's your purpose? And then like, are you carrying yourself and the traditions and like the teachings of your elders with like integrity? Like I'm constantly like, I'm navigating that all the time, which is what we should be doing. You should always be questioning those things, whatever like wellness path you're on, right? Like I'll just like share personally, and like going into like hilot, right? It's like I knew that I wanted to share it, and but I needed money. I had no job. And then so I was faced with having to navigate like, well, in the Philippines, it's like you don't ask for money.
Yeah. Right.
You either get paid in eggs,
That's deep.
some sort of exchange, but then
Right.
people, culturally it's understood, right, that you better give an exchange to whoever's healing you, or else you're going to get even more sick. Right. And so knowing that, right, and then bringing it here, like, that don't work here. At least I didn't figure out how to make it work in this, this like patriarchal capitalist like system that we're living in, and so I was doing like sliding scale like donation, and then like I was traveling a lot, so I didn't even know if a healing session would take an hour or 4 hours,
Right.
And so it was just really exhausting, trying to find harmony, for with all of those things, because all of those things have to exist, right? Like I know that there's ways to barter, right, so that we can sustain our wellness practice, right? But then I just had a really difficult time, still, trying to like navigate like those things, right? And like, what am I allowed to share? Like this teacher says that I can do this, but then this teacher says I can't.
Yes.
And so I'm like, let me just find something that's like feels authentic, to me. And so I think it's just constantly like negotiating, and asking yourself, like, am I like, why, and for what? Like I know that that's not it's more of like a cop out.
No, it's not.
I ain't got no answer for y'all, boo. Sorry,
It's a very nuanced answer, because people are nuanced, situations are nuanced. So yeah, integrity is what I pulled from your answer, integrity, and just always sitting with yourself, asking, like you said, why, why am I doing this? Or, like, yeah, what am I sharing? Why am I sharing it, etc. So
and
no,
I think
absolutely
also,
not a cop-out.
yeah, sorry, one more thing is like, who are you learning from?
Yeah.
To, like, who are your elders? And I know some folks are like, oh, all my elders are dead, or I don't have any. I was like, a lot of us, like I don't even know if there were healers in my family, like I've been estranged from my birth father, since for a really long time. So like on that side of like my lineage, I don't really know. And then
Mm.
on my maternal side, like I'm still getting to know like the names, just the names,
Hmm.
and I didn't even get those names from my relatives. I got those names from like ancestry.com or like storytelling or random Facebook messages, to people I
Okay.
don't even know.
Yep, yep.
And so like I share that because I also want to normalize that some of us are also in a position where we feel like we're starting from nowhere,
Yeah.
you know, and like those things can exist too with like our kapwa who are coming from lineages of healers, like that's tight. And so for me, it was really important for me to be like, well, I don't I don't have anyone at close proximity, so then I'm gonna find them. So that's why it was important for me to connect with people
Yeah.
like, Lagitan, or a lot of my teachers are like my peers, like I mentioned earlier today, like this too, by us like having the space. And I'm so thankful. I know everyone, who listens to your podcast and watches it, this is all a way for us to have that space, too, to interrogate and to kind of process,
Yes.
right, our journeys as well. So I just wanted to name that too, like who are your teachers, right? You got one, try to find them, here, there, everywhere. And then it's also okay too if it's like, okay, y'all do that over there, that's cool. I'll do this over here.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because
yes.
that's also good, multiple communities can exist that are doing similar work, and that's okay.
Yeah.
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 That's integrity. I think that's where discernment and confidence comes through. Because at the end of the day, you got to believe what you're doing.
Mm.
And even furthermore, if you're going to hold that responsibility of being a healer, you're channeling or you're holding space for healing to come in. If you're doing it for the quote wrong reasons, like it's going to show. So yeah, integrity.
Yes. Oh, wow. This conversation has been, you dropped so many wisdom nuggets. So thank you so much. I want to be respectful. Want to be respectful with your time, but
Yeah. Yeah.
did you have another question? Do we have one last question, sis? Do you have one? If
I
not,
mean, yeah, and what is time? But
what is time? Clocks are for colonizers.
oh, right. Sure. That's another thing. I was like, man, this is so deep. We could go in that tangent, that unpack this, but
There's so many other questions I want to have. I have.
And we can always, talk offline. We can, all the things. It never has to just end.
yeah. I know I've been trying to get Amy to come back to Cali because I wanted to bring her to the bookstore in the SOMA Center. Because it's like the biggest library I've seen.
I need to come back.
Yeah.
All Filipino books.
Oh, that's already empty. They already moved out of by Inian Center. Yeah, there's a lot of changes, renovation. So maybe by the time you come, all of the orgs and the bookstore, everyone will be settled in Soma, Filipinas. But
Cool. Yeah, I want to. I need to. It's kind of lonely out here in the Midwest sometimes. So
feel it. I feel it.
yeah, I'm finding people though. I'm finding my people slowly but surely. But still, it feels sometimes you look around, and
Who
it's
else
like,
is
well,
there?
who's there? Well, my
Yep.
friends online, my online friends, my online friends.
All the more reason why you should be doing this work.
Yeah, for her soul. Like I'm gonna be over there for some reason.
I hella appreciate y'all, so much. I have kind of like a hard stop at like 1:05. I gotta go to my next meeting.
Yes. Can you let the
But
people know where to find you and if you're, working with folks or how to find any of the things that you coordinate?
yeah, I tried to, all of like it throughout the whole conversation, I dropped everyone's full name. I tried to do the Instagram handle. I think I maybe only got one out of the six, but I dropped their government names. But you can always, just like Hilot with Verma on Instagram. I'm not really active on much else. Yeah, and then just that's what we do, right? Just go on somebody's Instagram.
Yeah. And then
Who are they following?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Who's following them?
Uh-huh.
And then yeah, just feel free to holler. I think I have like some links, like resources and stuff in my link tree. But yeah, thank you.
Thank
Super
you.
appreciate it,
Thank you,
y'all.
sis, for being
And I'm
here.
sorry for the graphic language. I hope this is
Oh no, we have graphic
Yeah,
language.
okay.
It's
it's
fine.
it's part
Got
of
it.
But thank you so much again for your time, and we loved having you here, and y'all's holler at her. That's Ate out there. She supporting the collective healing, and yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we hope to
Thank
see you
you.
soon. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.